All right. So, one of the lovely things about recording this is that if somebody ends up not being able to make it, we can always send the recording to them and they can watch it on their own time. So what we're going to do, Tina, is in a minute or two here, I'm going to bring up on the screen a PowerPoint presentation that we put together, and I don't know how or how familiar you are with Zoom, but if you have the gallery view set up or the speaker view set up, it should continue to hold Lynn and I, our images up in the corner. And, having a real person to look at, I think, is really important, even when we're doing a slide type of presentation. So hopefully that's one of the things we'll accomplish, is that it will be a webinar with some warmth.
Good.
Even though there's snow everywhere up here in the Pacific Northwest. Okay, so just a little bit of admin. I wanted to just, of course, first of all, welcome you, Tina. As you probably figured out, I'm Laura Abernathy, and I am the founder and the teacher of the Tree of Life Sanctuary. And I'm here with Lynn Brisden, a master certified coach, and she's also one of our Tree of Life Sanctuary team coaches. And she is in particular going to be running the Spiritual Satisfaction Program, coaching that group. And we'll be spending about an hour together here. Might go a little bit over, kind of depending how things flow. But just in terms of, I'm looking at my notes over here. Yeah, because this is virtual, and I'm doing this from my home office, the internet connection here is not as strong as it is in the Tree of Life Sanctuaries building. And so if either I or Lynn drop off of the call, just stay here, because we'll be back.
Okay.
Funny things can happen, so just stay. And usually within 30 seconds, 45 seconds, we'll be able to get back in on the call. And same for you. If it turns out that you, especially if our other person doesn't end up joining us, we can pause and wait for you to get back in if that should happen. Let's see here. Also, I wanted to point out at the bottom of your, well, depending on what device you're using, somewhere in your Zoom screen you should have a place where it shows mute. And we like to leave the mute feature off at the beginning, because I want people to control that for themselves. If something does come up in your environment where you have to talk to somebody else, or if there's some noise going on, we would appreciate you muting at that point, and then of course unmuting when it becomes quiet again. And the handouts and the recording, the presentation, I should say, and the recording will be available to you after we're finished. So just know that as we're going through all of this. Some people are note takers. Feel free to take notes if you want, but everything that's in here you will have a copy of at your request.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So let me just say a little bit about myself, and then Lynn will do the same. I have been a certified coach since 2003, and I founded the Tree of Life Sanctuary actually in 1997 in California. And then when we relocated up here to Washington State, the Bellingham, Washington area, myself and the board transformed it into a 501c3 not-for-profit, which all along is really what the heart and soul of it was anyway. And our mission is to uncover the divine in spiritual seekers through nurturing self-exploration. And that means a lot to us. It's a very open-ended environment, open-minded environment that we have here. And, you know, you can learn more about me later on. There's lots of different ways we can do that if you're curious to know more. But that's who I am. That's why I'm here. And I'll turn the floor over to Lynn to share what you'd like to share about yourself.
Thanks, Laura.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got my master's coach certification notification this week, so I'm pretty jazzed about that. I've been certified with ICS in 2003 and certified with CTI back in 2001. And prior to becoming a coach, I had been on a personal journey of spiritual development for probably 15 years, well, all my adult life, really, and spent a good deal of time learning the spiritual arts, if you will, meditation, healing, psychic reading, and then eventually becoming a teacher of meditation through an outfit called the Ley Lines of Spiritual Practice.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
Okay.
I don't know if
Sorry,
it's just,
her as well.
yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I did my studies with a group in Vancouver called the Ley Lines Center for Spiritual Practice, which was founded by Don Lay and his wife at the time, and they split, and now I'm married to Don. So I have the good fortune of being married to one of my spiritual teachers. And when I learned about CTI and their tenets that we were all creative, resourceful, and whole, and in fact magnificent, it really aligned for me. And when I was looking for ways to employ what I'd learned as a healer to more practical expression in life and career, it really connected. So when Laura expressed that she was looking for support with this program, I was very, very enthusiastic to partner with her.
And we were very happy about that, in particular me.
Lynn, you said CTI. What does CTI stand for?
Thank you. The Coach Training Institute.
Okay.
It's
And you said ley line. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's one of the early coach training institutes that were accredited with the ICF back in the 90s.
Okay. And then you said ley lines, as in the Earth's ley lines?
It is named in the same way, although it's a play on my husband's last name, which is also Lay.
Okay.
It's no longer operational, but they took their model from the Berkeley Psychic Institute.
I'm sorry, from the Brooks Institute?
Berkeley
Berkeley.
Psychic Institute.
Berkeley Psychic Institute.
Get that mic closer, sorry.
Okay, so I'm off. This is just right up my alley, so this is really interesting to me. So
Good.
awesome.
Good. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Thank you, Lynn. Were you finished? I didn't mean to. Yeah?
That's sufficient for now, yep.
Okay. All right. Okie doke. So let's go ahead and before you came in, Lynn, I think you might have missed that Tina shared that she was here today because of Marcia's suggestion that this might be something she'd be interested in.
Yes, I did just hear that as I walked in the room.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so we'll have to be sure and thank Marcia for sending her to us. Okay, so I'm going to share screen now, so bear with me a second and we'll start on the presentation.
And I'm going to put myself on mute while you're talking.
Sure.
In case there's
Sure.
any distracting noises.
Okay. So hold on one second here. There's my tree. got to get the cursor to behave properly. All right, well, welcome to Your Path, Your Spiritual Satisfaction. And give you a minute there to enjoy the beautiful graphics.
We miss Washington.
Aw, you used to live up here, huh?
Yes, I worked with Marcy for several years, and then obviously we stayed in touch afterward. My son is actually still living in Washington State.
Oh, well, you have to come out for visits if you
Oh,
don't
yeah.
already. Yeah. Well, what I'd like to start out with this quote from Maya Angelou, because this really has a lot to do with why I created this program. If you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be. And there's so much normalness, so to speak, in the world of spirituality that I really have found that it's far beyond time. And actually, I think in my lifetime has been the time for this to really start to break open, to get out of the box of spirituality, to start looking at other ways of approaching it and not have it be so, how do I put it? So,
Sorry.
oh, that's all right. That's all right. To have it be less constricted. That's the key part of it. And when we begin to really allow that and embrace it, even beyond tolerance of it, I really see us having a tremendous shift in consciousness as a species. And so this program, I call it the Spiritual Satisfaction Program. I created it based on these 3 principles: action, devotion, and contemplation. And then over on the right side of this screen, you see the
worksheet.
the assessment wheel. Yeah. And I just wanted to have you take a look at it, see it at this point, and hopefully you were able to download it for yourself. Did that work for you, Tina?
I downloaded it and I've got it printed in front of me.
Excellent. Okie doke. So, of course, it's always helpful to talk about why we use a wheel, just to start with. A big part of the coaching industry brought forth this tool to help people achieve more balance in their life. And a wheel is just a really good analogy for it, or metaphor for it, because the more balanced the wheel is, the smoother our ride through life. And a typical life wheel contains multiple areas of life, such as career, relationships, health, fun, and spirituality typically is included. And the spiritual satisfaction wheel that I created zeroes in on just spirituality. And so, of course, there's several spirituality wheels that are out there besides this one, and they're all, of course, effective. However, they do tend to be more complex and also still somewhat restrictive. So I created this one to address that issue. It's simple and it's also very expandable. And then when you do the assessment for the spiritual satisfaction assessment for yourself, you end up having a unique wheel there, because based upon your ratings from 1 to 10, it will give you a look at how satisfied you are with your spiritual life and how balanced it is. It'll help you to take a look at what's already going well. What would the next level of satisfaction look like for each of those principles? And what would make your spiritual journey in life more smooth? So that's why we have a wheel. So now what we're going to do is take a look at these 3 principles, and then we'll go do a quick overview of the topics that fall under each of the principles. I also encourage people to go to my column on oneideaaway.com. I call it Soul Liberation, and there are articles that I've written about each of the topics. So we're just going to do an overview here today. So the action principle is about the use of the body to be in the God force. Devotion is about the use of the heart to talk with the God force. And contemplation is about the use of the mind to listen to the God force. So we start out with action, use of the body to be in the God force. And these are the topics that are covered. Creating sacred space, specifically, ideally in our home. Cleansing that sacred space. The important pieces to keeping that sacred space ideal, an ideal shape. Invoking spiritual energy into that sacred space. Not only do we want to keep it in a clean, at least neutral state, but we want to build it up in a way that it can be an inspiration for us and help build our energy when we use it or even look at it. The basic forms of yoga are part of the program topics, and in particular, asana, asana, pranayama, and karma yoga, which is a form of yoga about doing service through labor, physical labor. Connecting with nature, that's always something very important for spirituality, and then connecting with kindred spirits. Very important, very important. And then devotion, use of the heart to talk with the God force. Reverence for the divine self. A lot of people have a tendency to forget that the divine is within. A spiritual diary, having a way to record and reflect on our day's experiences. Practices of attunement to the God force. Tuning up that part of our life, ideally in our sacred space, but at some level all day long, in connecting, but in a deep way with the God force. Chanting and mantras, use of the voice. Service to the light through my life purpose. We support people in considering the idea that we all have a beautiful, specific, unique gift to bring and contribute to the world. And gratitude for abundance. That's very important. Excuse me, that's part of our relationship with Source, with the God force. And then contemplation, use of the mind to listen to the God force. Meditation as a door to divine guidance. This is about the mind, so quieting the mind is a big part there. Receptivity to symbols. Lots of times the divine within us will communicate with us through symbols. Reading and reflection and study and research are like bookends. They are a way to use our mind to connect and listen to the God force in passive format and active format. And visualization to develop the third eye. That's in the center of the forehead, and that is directly tied to our intuition. So now what I'm going to talk about is the steps that a person will go through if you decide you want to do this assessment. So the first one is you just need to email me at info@treeoflifesanctuary.org to say, hey, yes, please send me the assessment information, the materials, I want to do it. And then, of course, you need to plan about an hour to do the assessment, give or take a few minutes, depending on, everybody works at a different rate of speed, and some people might actually have some questions. And so in that hour, you want to read the self-assessment packet. There's information in there. And then there's also an audio file that will be sent, that you'll get a link to Dropbox where you'll download all of these things. And that audio is actually me taking people through doing the exercise years ago. And it's really helpful to listen to that instruction. So it's about a half hour long. So that would be something you'd want to do before you actually do the assessment. And then, of course, you do the assessment following the instructions. You have the audio instruction guidance and there's written instruction guidance. And I'll pause here for just a second to point out on the wheel that you have those numbers 1 to 10. And so in each of these principles and in the self-assessment material packet, there's more detail describing all of those topics underneath each of these 3 principles, so you can be very clear about how you would rate your level of satisfaction with those topics, that area that of the principles, so action, devotion, or contemplation. And you pick one of the numbers that is appropriate for you, that you feel fits where you're at in that area. And then you're going to be connecting them, those 3 numbers. You're going to connect them. And the result in the end is going to give you what I call your unique wheel. So, of course, as you're doing the assessment for yourself, feel free to contact me with any questions that you might have. And then once you have finished it, what you can do if you want to go to this next level is schedule an appointment with either Lynn or myself to go over your results. That's no cost. It's part of the preparation for this program if you should decide to do it. And then once you've made your appointment, we'll give you the links to our schedulers in that self-assessment packet. You scan your assessment wheel and email it to the coach you chose, either myself or Lynn, and then you do the review session with the coach that you chose, going over the results and asking questions and getting insights. And there will be some support around asking the questions that we brought up a little earlier as to what's working well already. And even sometimes people come in with pretty high levels in all 3 areas. There's always room for expansion by asking the question of, well, what would the next level of satisfaction look like in that area? So there's always room to expand and raise your spiritual satisfaction. And then, of course, the most important thing is to have fun with this. Spirituality is serious, but the most important discipline of all is fun. So the group coaching program is 19 months long. It covers 18 topics. And of course, 17 of those topics are on those principles that we talked about: action, devotion, and contemplation. And there's an additional topic that makes it 18, and that's called your year-end life review, which is covered over a 2-month period. So you've got a 19-month program covering 18 topics. And then after it's completed, really we see people end up going down 2 different avenues. Either they are totally good with where they're at and they're ready to move on to the next aspect of developing their spiritual self in whatever way that looks. And whatever they have chosen to do, they always approach it with new tools from having gone through this program and more confidence. And then we actually do have people that stay and repeat the program because they've really liked it and they don't feel called to do anything else different from it, and they just continue to raise their spiritual satisfaction for all of the principles. Sometimes also, I don't have this here, some people do both. They continue the program and kind of consider that their foundational work, and to have a trusted group of kindred spirits with an experienced, skilled, and loving coach to support them. From there, while they're continuing to do the program, they go out and explore something else that they feel inspired to do. And then the structure of how it works is there are 2 sessions, group coaching sessions per month on each topic, 1 topic a month. And the first session is topic-focused learning. And then at the end of that session, everybody shares about what they would like to, what they feel inspired to do around that topic between session 1 and session 2. And then in session 2, the focus is on review and discussion of the topic, questions sharing, and any coaching that might be appropriate to support people. And everybody grows and learns from each other. There's definitely a growth experience that comes from it. We keep the group size to 5 maximum. I have found over the years that that is really the ideal number to give quality connection within the group, both with Lynn and the fellow participants. And all the sessions are held in confidence by everybody in the group. And discerning if the group is trustworthy is also an important aspect, of course. And so there is a 3-month test period option that a person can choose if that's really important for them. So if you feel curious about this program and open to exploring it, the next round of the program is going to start in April. We have an orientation session set up on April 16th in the evening Pacific time. I know that's really late for East Coast, so we will schedule an additional orientation session for East Coast time as needed. And of course, before this orientation session, everybody that would be attending the session will have done their half-hour one-to-one session with either myself or Lynn to go over the assessment results. And the orientation session is we've got that set up in Eventbrite, just like we did for this info webinar. And it's not set up public though, because we want to send the invitation to those who have gone through the assessment and reviewed it with either myself or Lynn. And then at the end of your assessment review, you just let us know if you'd like to take the next step, and we'll send you that link. And I guess it's also important to mention that even still, if you say, yeah, give me the link, you want to look at it a little more, just by clicking on that link to go look at the invitation isn't committing to anything. At the point where you would commit is when you decide which payment option works best for you. Let me get another sip of water here. So the full price for the program is $950 US. And I feel it's important to remind everybody that the Tree of Life Sanctuary is a 501c3 not-for-profit school of the soul. And so we're not doing this program to, become, to have a ton of abundance flow in just so that I can have a better chair in the office. It's not like that for where we are, who we are. all of the money that comes in for this program and all of our programs is really geared towards operation. And this program solely supports the coach fee that we pay Lynn and the operation costs. So our payment options, we have 3. The monthly payment, which is $50 a month, it does require a 3-month deposit. And that is the one I recommend for anybody that might want to just kind of, test it out first. For anybody that is like, oh, yeah, I'm going to want to do this, especially after doing the assessment and working with myself or Lynn in the review, might feel for sure this is what I want, and they want to pay in full. And we give you a really nice discount when you do that. There's 20% discount, and the school covers the bank fees associated with that. Oops, sorry. And then the 3 payments option is $316 for each of the 3 payments over the 19 months. And the first one is required when you register. The other 2 payments we can set up in ways individually according to the individual person. And of course, all of this information and the details are listed on the Eventbrite registration page. And you make your choice which one works best for you once you decide that you're going to do it, and then you register. So just a few closing thoughts. Check the time here. All of the slides in this webinar are part of the Spiritual Satisfaction Self-Assessment PDF package that you will get when all you have to do is ask. The webinar recording is also yours if you would like it for review. You just need to email us at info@treeoflifesanctuary.org. And also, feel free in the meantime to go to my column and read some of the articles about the topics. That also might help a person make a decision if this is what they're looking for. So before you sign off of the call here, and you can go ahead and we can do the poll right now. We still have some time left for discussion and questions, but we really would like your feedback so far on how this presentation was. At the bottom, there is or somewhere on your screen, I'm sorry, I forget, not everybody's on a laptop, but in your Zoom bar, there should be a place for polls. And you click on the polling link. Oh, I'm going to launch that here in a second, but I'll show you. How satisfied were you with this webinar? And one, I like to, of course, as I mentioned before, have some fun. A horrible waste of time, and most of the time, people who feel that way have already left the call, or they've muted themselves and they've gone off to do something else, which is totally fine. Or 5 is just outstanding, extremely satisfied. So I'm going to launch the poll. If you could just go ahead and give us a ratings of how we did so far. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you. So we'll end the polling. And sometimes people request the recording, and so I like to put this in here that even if you're not here live, send us your rating from 1 to 5. So thank you so much, Tina, for your openness and your curiosity today and being here. And I will stop sharing the presentation screen and open the floor to maybe what I could do. I didn't make any space in there for Lynn to insert any of her input, so I'd like to do that now, and then we'll open the floor to Tina with any input or questions she has.
Thanks, Laura.
Uh-huh.
And as I was listening to this today, what was really becoming apparent is my appreciation for the value in devoting time to be in a program like this. And reflecting back to the many years when I was studying and devoted my time to learning for myself, and how that really supported me in carrying my spiritual viewpoints, philosophies, and really way of being into everything else that I engaged in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that wasn't a big part of my life, and even being married to one of my spiritual teachers,
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy for all the other influences of our work, of our social activities, to kind of creep in on that space that we create for ourselves to follow our spiritual practice, whatever that happens to be for us. And so, making that commitment to spending an hour every couple of weeks to explore the different parts of it, the way that you've broken it down is quite brilliant, I think.
Mm, good.
and uh, and while not everyone would be doing every single one of those steps, each one of us is going to find a unique way of consciously choosing to honor our spiritual awareness and process in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that it just really helps to ground it in. And
Yes.
that, you know, not not an insignificant reason about why I wanted to be part of the program is, I'm a little bit selfish. It's really, really helping me to kind of anchor this in beyond, my commitment to doing at least a short meditation every morning before I
Yeah.
fly out the door and drive for an hour,
Right. Right.
So, I just want, and so that, I think that's true for whether someone is just getting started and opening the doors to new awarenesses, to someone who might be scoring it, 8 or 9 on the
Right.
wheel and wants to really, really reinforce their spiritual practice and take it to
Yeah.
the next level.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I agree with you 100%. Yes. No matter where we're at with any of our spiritual work, practices, perspectives, all of those things, there's always room for expansion. And this is a way, no matter what level we're at, to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So Tina, talk to us about any questions you have or any feedback you have for us.
So one of the things I like how you go into a little more information on the action, the devotion, and the contemplation. It helps give a little more depth to the worksheet.
Mhm.
You do a good 1,000-foot level.
Mhm.
For those that are wanting a little more information, I think obviously uh, it's almost like a teaser because
Uh, yeah.
it does really go into a lot of depth.
Uh-huh.
To
Yeah.
We can talk about spirituality, and it means different things to different peoples. I'm totally on the same vibe of y'all. I mean, I'm super, I'm dialed in. I'm right there with you.
Uh-huh.
It could be many things to many people, but understanding that you have to take care of yourself as a vessel to be the mind and the voice and the person in action to spread that light and love.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty important. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was looking for a little more, um, I guess a deeper dive.
Mm-hmm.
Some very curious person
Mm-hmm.
about action, the devotion, the contemplation. A
Mm-hmm.
little more information about the program. A little more information about. Yes, it's going to enhance our life, but within that presentation, what's the what am I buying into, so to speak?
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
know it's all development. I get that part. Um, some of the feedback, the curtains, I love the creativity of the curtains, but it's a little distraction with the second wave of movement.
Okay.
and the pullback of it, but it's like I'm ready for that next bite of information. But that's just my funnel. I have a very wide funnel. Give me all the information you can. So everyone may read that. Like, I just love the curtains. It's very different versus a fade in, fade out.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you can see somebody live, that you know
Uh-huh.
that you're talk through. It's a very personal experience. That's not something I've witnessed on a webinar. So
Uh,
thank you for
yeah,
that presentation.
sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
Lynn, I was very, very curious on what you were trying to say, but I'm like bending over, leaning in. It's really hard to hear. And I didn't know if centering that mic right with your mouth might help, because it might be picking up. It might have a a limit on if it picks up right or left. But I
Uh,
was very hard. It was very hard to hear you sometimes.
Okay, thank you. Is this better?
Yes, it just, you still sound a little. Laura sounds very like she's right here talking to me on the phone.
yeah, I have
Um,
a headset on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yours,
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know if it was a distance and the space of where the mic was, but it was just difficult to hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good feedback. Yeah. So, would you like me to bring up one of the slides and talk a little more detail? It's about 20 till. We have about 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes left before we would wrap up.
Yeah, I'd
Uh,
like to learn more about it. Yeah.
okay, so let me um, first of all bring up the proper slide, and then we'll do that.
I've just discovered why you can't hear me. I have
Uh-huh.
laptops out somewhere. That mic's not even plugged in.
Oh, there you.
Oh, big difference.
Ah, I'm going, what? This is usually not a problem. Sorry.
Live and learn, right? Good. That's much better. I can hear you way better.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see here. And if you don't mind, Tina, I'm just going to show this as in the PowerPoint instead of opening it up and having all the features showing up on it. Okay, so action. Let's fine tune it for you. Which one of these would you like me to talk in more depth about?
So I love the idea of the creating the sacred space and the cleansing and the evoking the spiritual age. The yoga, now that's something that really interested about being in the God force. So it's about taking, I like the fact that you're focusing in on personal health, inner strength, outer strength, to go the distance. The connecting with nature, that one threw me a little bit, other than being appreciative. I mean, I could see the link there. And
Mm-hmm.
then kindred spirits through social gathering and spiritual focus. For those, I mean, you got to think you're all across the country, and yours is a unique approach.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, other than through the group, it would be really, oh, I don't want to say closed-minded. There are others that are more structured in their spiritual view,
Mm-hmm.
where that's very difficult for them to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you, I guess, a little more information on those last three there?
Well, in regards to what you're referring to, I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying, that the connecting with kindred spirits that are not of your spiritual path. Is that what you mean, Tina?
Oh, no, just through social gatherings and spiritual focus. So,
Oh, okay. Well, what my thinking is in this topic is to help people understand that it's just as important to have social connections with people, ideally in a spirit with a spiritual focus, as it is to be at home sitting in your temple doing a meditation. In other words, there needs to be a balance between being the hermit and being the butterfly.
Gotcha.
And that because this program is about nurturing our spiritual self, we do need to have people, we need to have other people to connect with in that venue also, because nothing great is ever accomplished alone. So that topic is primarily around the importance of connecting with kindred spirits, having it be a focus thing. Now, some people do that by going to church once a week, if they're in a traditional religion, or if they're in a somewhat non traditional religion in our country. Not all. I'm not just talking about Christianity.
Right.
So that's what that is about, is the importance of connecting and not just being a loner.
Okay. And then the connecting with nature through outdoor experiences.
Mm-hmm. That talks about how nature is an expression of the God force, and how we can learn a lot about a lot of truths with the capital T's about life by observing nature.
Okay. So things like fractals and synchronicities and seasons and everything's life cycles, that's kind of.
And more.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And then just appreciation for, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
And then on, let's see, the devotion. Can we switch?
Okay.
Can we switch to that one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh. Hold on a second. Sometimes it's a little slower when I share screen. Okay. Got devotion. Which one?
So knowing your life's purpose. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously we're here on this earth for a reason and a purpose. And sometimes it's a lot about the journey that we go through.
Mm-hmm.
The gratitude, spot on. The chanting and mantras looks really interesting. The attunement to the, I mean, would that be meditation?
Well, let me think, how would I describe that?
The connecting deeply.
Yeah, it's in the meditation practice, that's mostly about quieting the mind.
Mm-hmm.
The practices of attunement are more focused on practices related to the heart, connecting with developing an emotional relationship with the God force.
So you're connecting to you're talking about the energy connection.
Energy is one way to describe it for sure, but it's
Okay.
heart focused.
Yep. Gotcha. And then, so that ties into the creating the heart energy for practices.
Yes.
Making sure you access your heart energy, so you know when you're flowing through that, you're on the right wavelength.
Yes.
Okay. And then the contemplation slide.
All right.
You are the first person I have ever seen touch upon the concept of symbols as a God force, and how most people, they talk about it in like an esoteric way, but it's right and seeing you're spot on with that. Hats off.
Yeah.
Nice to see that incorporated.
Yeah.
Choosing and working with passive input. Can you and active input? Can you kind of go into a little bit of that? You talked about it being.
Yeah. This whole principle wraps around the concept of receiving information, because it's about the mind. Receiving information through the mind as opposed to the heart or our intuition and things like that. And so the ways that we receive information through the mind are listed here. And of course, for example, this is a form of study and research, because in your case, Tina, because you have decided to reach out and open yourself to something. You are researching a possible tool that you can apply in your life to raise your spiritual consciousness. And so you are being active about that. Whereas the passive form of receiving information through the mind is more in the form of like reading by yourself, and or watching a film by yourself and reflecting on what you're reading, allowing that to sink in. So that's more of a passive format of allowing information to come into our mind. And study and research is a more reaching out and active form of information into the mind.
Okay. And then practices to develop the third eye. The tree of life, the Kabbalah. I mean, it's really, now we're kind of going back toward your gifts that everyone has. Just it's more than others, and so
yeah.
To develop that third eye is that insight, right? So now we're kind of going into a little bit of esoteric, but can you walk, I mean, I'm fascinated by this part. Can you walk me through this a little more?
Sure. Yeah. One of the, as you perfectly touched on, the third eye is related to our intuition and our ability to just tap into the knowingness or the, am I doing okay? I want to make sure I'm not freezing on you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Okay.
That you're tapping into information that is beyond the mind, that's available to us through the energy of energies that are going on around us. And one of the key things that I have learned over my years about that ability is that that part of the brain is, Lynn is I want Lynn to talk about this a little bit here before we hang up, because she specializes in conversational intelligence and how neuroscience has been supporting this. But that the development of that part of our brain that allows us to use that natural gift, the way to develop it is a visualization practice. It's about applying, learning how, practicing and developing the ability to visualize. And it's not so much about visualizing what you want to manifest, which is something most people are familiar with today, but more about developing the third eye itself. Lynn, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, yeah, the conversational intelligence that you referred to, that's the last coaching certification that I attained in last year. And based on the work of Judith Glaser, who was working as she was a cultural anthropologist initially, and then went on to apply what she'd learned working in corporations, and recognized that the way we are in conversation has a really strong influence in the relationships that we develop. And she brought neuroscience into the coaching conversation to understand, what qualities in conversation are more conducive to creativity, and what patterns create stress and that kind of thing. And I'm sort of giving you the, very broad view. One of the things that really connected for me when I first learned about it is she referenced the third eye and talked about how she would help leaders of, Fortune 50 companies tune into their third eye awareness so that they could really exercise their visionary capabilities. And the way that she referenced it was talking about how cultures from days gone by, as an anthropologist, every culture had their wise men, and they're, the people who looked after, the shamans, the medicine men, and they had cultivated this third eye capacity. And as she brought the neuroscience into the model, recognize that there's a correlation between what we call the third eye and the prefrontal cortex, which is, that ability to observe and, in charge of our executive thinking. So now I'm really encapsulating this here. I'm not a neuroscientist, but the practices in conversation that help us move more into that prefrontal cortex awareness and out of the triggered amygdala shutdown are what creates better conversations and a higher quality of culture in an organization. So that was the thing that really connected me, and I decided I needed to do this certification. So
Yeah.
That explains that. So it's about the emotional intelligence. So it's not just listening to the words, you're listening to the nonverbal cues, the fact that there's something else going on, the fact that you pause a conversation, go and come sit down. We need what's really going on versus that surface conversation. Yeah,
absolutely. And asking open-ended questions that we don't have the answers to, rather than being in a pattern of simply telling.
Yeah.
You guys could do a whole session on that by itself.
Or more.
Yeah.
Exactly. It would be a vital tool for those who are in leadership roles, especially.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you. So it's 3 minutes to the hour. Thank you so much, Tina, for being here. We got so much out of your feedback and your questions, and it was awesome. Anything else that you want to talk with us about here before we say goodbye for now?
No, I'm good. Thank you for diving deeper into some of those topics. I appreciate it.
Of course, absolutely. So just email at that address, info@treeoflifesanctuary.org, and I'll be happy to send you a copy of everything, and you'll be able to explore even more.
Awesome. And then you mentioned, and I think you had a link in the thing about oneideaway.com.
Yes.
On that.
And,
And then Lynn, you said you've gotten a master. Have you written any articles or books or?
No.
Oh.
I've been working hard as a business coach, helping people getting businesses started. You can find my website at livinginvision.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. This was really interesting.
Good.
Look forward to getting some more information. You should see an email probably in the next hour or so.
All right. Thanks, Tina.
Thanks
to everybody that's watching the recording. Look forward to hearing from you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Hold on.